aquatic life. I've noticed since the spill occurred that there are more abundance of aquatic life on my property directly from the lake. From water snakes to snapping turtles to bullfrogs. Way more than normal in the 28 years that I've lived there. I honestly believe that is a sign of nature telling us something is ready to happen here. Letting my children go fishing, much less eating what they catch, will never happen again. Unfortunately, my children's normal way of life, from fishing to hunting to playing in the mud to splashing through puddles of water, is forever gone. Now, no unproductive activities they love so much. Our wetlands are destroyed along with the habitats of many animals, and it's getting worse as I'm speaking now. Our environment will suffer for many years to come. The areas where the tar stains have reached will become the sight for sore eyes, a ghost town to what we all knew before this happened. Devastation will be everywhere, as more animals, aquatic life, plants, trees, farmlands, and habitats die off from the chemical exposure.
Oh, I didn't prepare anything. I live about 300 yards from the ruptured site, on the back side of it. Since day one, we haven't seen Exxon, we haven't heard from any city officials, and we haven't been evacuated. Me and my wife both have experienced some different illnesses such as headaches, nausea. I had a pass out experience during the first week. She's now taking an inhaler. I'm having to take medicine for nausea. I'm having burning in my stomach. My grandkids, one of them was sent home the first week from nausea from school. She practices softball right there at the school. Nothing's been done. They haven't moved us. They haven't asked us if we need to leave or anything. And we're still sick, and nobody is doing anything. Any doctors we go to see, they don't know what to do with it. They've never experienced this. So we're pretty much, yeah, they say it's just allergies or just, try to associate with that. And so we're pretty much at a standstill. We don't know what to do about it.
Genevieve and I, we went to Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks ago. We brought a letter up to see Senator Kerry. Unfortunately, he was out of the state, out of the district on government business. Yeah.
Right.
He was out on government business. But we were able to hold our press conference. We were able to get our letter inside of the building. That's I can confirm from the information that we got trying to get the letter in there. From what I've read in the news, I could be wrong, because I had two news last day or two, but evidently this Keystone pipeline that they're talking about has been sort of approved, or it's getting ready to go through. My issue with this whole thing is I've got about 400 linear feet of this pipe in my backyard. I'm about half mile, 3/4 mile straight down the pipeline from where the break occurred. The day it happened, I get the boy about half the time, and his mom gets him about the half time. I picked him up that morning, and I brought him back in. We're getting into Mayflower. I got that smell something, and it reminded me back up, reminded me of Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania. I'm thinking, what's going on here? This can't be. It's got to be one of these paper plants or something like this. And come to find out, 36 hours after the incident, and I'm a pipeline holder, that there was a problem just up the line from there. And of course, I got to thinking about my boy. I got to thinking about the fact that already we're in a bad housing market, let alone now I've got this time bomb sitting in my backyard, completely destroying not only my property values, but my boy's inheritance. It's not like I've hit the lottery or anything. That's all I've got to pass down to him in my house. I've got about 6 acres of land. I've got wildlife out there. As Genevieve mentioned earlier, even where I'm at, I'm seeing more turtles, I'm seeing more rabbits, I'm seeing more raccoons. Snakes. I'm hearing turkeys in my yard. And he loves it. Deer. I have deer on my property, but I've seen more and more, and they're more and more out in the open. And this just tells me, I've spent about 25 years building houses, so I spend time outside. I know how nature works. I see how it operates. This tells me that there's just something going on that isn't right. And the only thing that's happened that can possibly be a logical conclusion to this would be the oil spill. From what I understand with the nature of the material, pipeline laid in 1947 or 1948. It was made out of basically cold rolled steel that was rolled together and had a single weld down the middle of it. Of course, that was the technology back then. It seems to me a company the size of ExxonMobil with its resources ought to think, this pipeline is this old. We're putting stuff that was never designed, the pressures it was never designed for. Maybe we ought to be responsible and take some of the billions to billions of dollars we make profit every year and let's replace this pipeline for it. To me, I'm no lawyer. I'm 3 years away from a law degree, so don't go run off your lawyer with this information. But it seems to me this is negligence. If I have a ladder sitting on my property and a burglar uses my ladder to steal my stuff and breaks his leg, I'm guilty of negligence. And this seems to me this is something that ExxonMobil, if they didn't know for sure, that they should have forecasted what happened. The pipeline, I actually saw a picture last night of the pipe that ruptured. Straight down, I mean, it's a straight rupture down there. And it's just, it leads you to see or to conclude that it's the weld that broke. And with as many leaks as happened on this pipeline, especially recently, this one in Missouri, we had one we had 60 days ago, and there's been several more. This isn't rocket science, people. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. I worry about, like I said, his financial future. I worry about his health being out there. I don't know what else to really say about it. I don't.
They need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And they need to help the citizens instead of helping themselves.
On the backside of the Northwood subdivision also, and Exxon came through and put down a bunch of gravel and some things so they could run their equipment across the back to get to the back of the subdivision to start hauling the product out. The day that it broke, my daughter was staying with me because she had a baby and so I'm helping take care of her and a 3-month-old baby, and she starts smelling us and says, "Mom, you gotta go. Mom, you gotta go." They always teach you smell something bad, you gotta go. So I called my son, who was Mayflower, in the Mayflower program for the Deputy Sheriff Reserve, and I said, "Do you know anyone I can talk to that can tell us what we need to do? Do we need to evacuate?" And he said, "Everybody I know is out working the spit. Call the Mayflower Police Department." So I did. I called them and I said, "Hey, we have this terrible smell. We see all the lights and the oil, and we've heard what's going on. Do we need to evacuate?" "No, ma'am. That smell is just put in there so we know if a pipe breaks or something. There's nothing for you to be worried about. You do not need to evacuate." So we stayed. Then, later on, found out that, yes, what we were breathing in was toxic, and we had been breathing it in for 2 weeks. I was at the Earth Day first meeting, the first time I had anyone to talk to or know how to get any information. I'm a resident here, but they don't want to talk to us. We're not in the subdivision, so therefore we shouldn't be affected. Even though we were headaches, sinus problems, I went to my doctor. He wanted to do an MRI because he couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I've been on an inhaler myself and haven't had to use it in years. All kinds of breathing problems and headaches, and whenever I went to the Earth Day, they found out, hey, what we're breathing in is toxic. I called my daughter and said, "You were wrong, you should have left. Get my grandson out there." And they left, and they went and stayed with my son, and that's where they are now. I travel a lot, so I've been going back and forth. Now, Exxon did put her up for a week while I was out of town, because we were in their way because she needed to get in and out of the driveway. And they were using their trucks to haul this trash back and forth across my front yard. So not only were we exposed to it from the air coming from the oil where the pipeline where it broke, but we were exposed to what they were hauling right past my front door. So she was gone for a week. I was out of town. When I came back, I said, I don't smell it anymore. And remarkably, on my third day out of town, I woke up without a headache. First time in over 3 weeks, I had not had a headache. Got home, I got to the airport to get in my car to come home. I opened the car door and the smell just almost knocked me down because it was trapped in my car while I was gone. And immediately, I got my headache back. And when I talk to the Exxon people, oh, it's allergy season. It's probably just allergies. Okay, my doctor had me on medication for allergies. He had me on medication for migraines. Nothing was working. So that's why he scheduled an MRI, because it couldn't possibly have anything to do with what was going on with Exxon and oil and what we were smelling. A couple of days after it first happened, I walked out to look at my bees. I am a beekeeper and I had 2 hives in the backyard. And I walked out and the front porch of the hive was covered with dead bees that were black, covered in oil. I called the state plant board. They came and did an emergency evacuation of my bees. I stayed there, but my bees got moved to a safe distance away, about 15, 20 miles away. That was on a Friday. So Saturday morning, I went and opened up my hives, and one was almost empty, less than half, didn't even make it back. They went out and never came back. They're still there, and they won't be coming back until I know it's going to be safe for them, which who knows when that will be. So yes, it's affecting the wildlife, and Exxon did come and wanted some of my bees. So we picked them up off the ground, covered in oil, put them in a Ziploc bag, and left them there. And also the state plant board took some of the bees that were covered in oil. I requested an air quality test. So they came out, EPA, with their little handheld monitors, went around to my house, took pictures of every candle, every hairspray bottle, every incense thing that was in my house. And then went out to the yard and I said, I want you to test right here where I know the dead bees and the oil. Well, the whole time he was testing, he would show me the monitor and show me, see, this is less than 5 parts per billion, so you have nothing to worry about. It's all low. It's, there's nothing here that should be bothering you. But when he went out and tested where the bees used to be, he didn't show me the monitor that time. He said, oh yeah, we have to pay. So I spoke with some people and they said, you need to get an air quality canister test. So they came out, they set up an air canister in my living room and one outside. And they said they would get in touch with me when the test came back. They sent it off to an independent lab. And they said it would take a couple of weeks, and that was about 3 weeks ago, and I've still not heard back from them as yet. Should I allow my children, my grandchildren, back in my house? I don't let anyone come over. I don't want anyone else exposed to this stuff that doesn't hurt you.
My problem is that they say the air quality is fine, but do they have a 24-hour test that they do for people that are exposed for long term? Or are their tests simplified into 8-hour increments? That's my concern. Yes, the air quality might be fine in an 8-hour increment, but what about the 24-hour, 7 days a week effects that we're going to have?
My wife and I, we went to the ER at the same time. She seen one doctor, I seen another. Same symptoms. They sent her home, bronchitis. They sent me home with abdominal pain. We called the claims department. They actually came out, they met with us, they wrote out a check to pay for the ER visits, pay for our medicine, pay for our gas, and pay for our parking, but yet they don't claim to be responsible for anything. So why pay for it? We tried to call them back, 16, we've had other doctor's visits, they won't return our calls.
My grandson also had to go to the doctor several times since this happened. He's been diagnosed with a sinus infection. who's then also diagnosed with upper respiratory infection. And I sent the first handout with my daughter to the doctor. He wouldn't even look at it. He said, oh, he's just got a cold.
I'd like to add something up here, and I apologize. I said you were at the Mayflower meeting last night also.
That was me.
Oh, I don't know if you caught this, but when they're talking about, they want you to finance, and you say, well, yay, we got this $100,000 check here. Yay, we got this $100,000 check. Okay, that's all fine and good. But the thing, they never talked once about how they're going to use it to help the community. They never talked once about what's going on in the community. The biggest thing, I remember when guys was talking about, well, grass getting planted, what we're going to do about getting cut. They weren't worried about cutting grass. I'm not sure it's nice in the drawer, but just something doesn't separate with me.
Sharper than you know, brother. We spoke with some people who live on Garrett Lane, which is right off the dam road, and I wanted to know if anyone had said the same kind of thing to you guys when you've been to the doctor and visited with people. But a woman that we've spoken with several times called me weeping one afternoon after she'd just gotten sent back from the pediatric center in Conroe. And she said they wouldn't give her child any medicine, they wouldn't do anything else for him, and they said the reason is because there's been a whooping cough epidemic in the Mayflower School District, and this is all that is.
That's not true.
Exactly. Well, we know that, but obviously that begs the question: did someone go and put that information in that doctor's office for them and say, "Hey, this is probably going to come up because we've had this epidemic"? I believe very strongly from my heart that they're covering their tracks.
One of the softball moms that our kids play softball with, she is a nurse at UAMS, and she told us that Exxon had come around and went to all the doctors saying, do not write on anything that says the pool was responsible.
I made my doctors, or they weren't going to note it at all. They also told me that they had no way at UAMS to test me for any of these chemical exposures. My concern is how can you be a doctor and not know specific tests that need to be ran on people due to chemical exposure? That should be a mandatory preset thing to get a medical license. Or they should at least have somebody in that field that works specifically with that.
And Exxon is responsible for making sure that that happens.
Exactly.
They are responsible for training everyone that lives in this community to understand these symptoms, and they haven't even addressed it.
They've had a MIMS on site, but it's for the workers.
Right.
Not for.
My wife went down there the first couple of days and told her all of our symptoms, what was going on, and they sent her into the MIMS trailer, and they told her she needed to go to the ER and get it documented. That's all they would do. And we're not going to evacuate us, because we were not in the subdivision.
Right.
They left people 100 yards from a pool of benzene for over a month, and that shows you their level of commitment.
Could you say that again, please?
I said they left people on Garrett Lane and right off the dam road down there 100 yards from a pool of benzene.
And
That's their
We live
response.
across the street from Dam Road, from Martin's.
They left
John-
you there.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
they
yeah.
told us
Their
the air
concern
quality
was
was fine. We
PR.
shouldn't have anything to
And
worry
there was a
about.
lady that was living with me that was 7 months pregnant. And they said, well, there's other pregnant women in the area, and they're doing fine. She did manage to leave. They paid for, she and her family, to stay at a motel for 5 days. Well, we're still smelling that crap. But yet there is no oil in the cove.
We videotaped it, so they can't say
Oh,
that.
yeah, I know it. Marty and Jonathan both have video.
There's
I
plenty of
have 2
them.
letters here from residents who were hesitant to come in front of the cameras today, so I just want to read them quickly. Just one short. She says, I'm concerned about the environment and how safe it really is now. We are fighting a never-ending battle. Over the years, where many other spills have occurred, the ecosystem had never recovered. I have grandchildren who live here also, and I do not feel safe allowing my grandchildren to be here. I will not allow them to fish or be around the water for that matter, much less let them play in the dirt. Their childhood has been completely altered due to the contamination. The ecosystem has been forever changed from the wildlife to habitats and natural resources. And here's another one from a resident who lives inside the Northwoods subdivision. She says, as a Northwoods and Mayflower resident, I have many concerns and questions. First and foremost, the health of my family. As a parent, it's our responsibility to protect our children and put their needs before our own. Having a baby, I understand that when born, we don't have antibodies, and these are built up in time. So smaller children, especially babies, along with our pets, have a much harder time fighting off the toxins that have been released into our air, and their bodies just can't handle these kind of chemicals. So I'm thinking of our future when I ask, will we be able to have another baby? If we have another baby, will the baby have birth defects or missing limbs? Will I or my husband get cancer in the next 10 years? And our children have to grow up without one or both parents? Or will our children get cancer? Will our grandchildren be born with birth defects because they're exposed at such a young age? Secondly, our environment. The lasting effects are not just in our community, they're being spread throughout the state of Arkansas and the United States. The cleanup efforts appear to be going good, but one fact still stands. In the weekly newsletter to our community, Exxon states that 5,000 barrels were spilled, but only 2,000 barrels have been recovered. Where is the remaining 3,000 barrels? Is it at the bottom of Lake Conway, Alarm Creek, and Arkansas River? And what about Lake Conway, one of the largest fishing reservoirs in the area? Is it safe to eat the fish? How many restaurants get their fish from local water resources? How will that affect the outlying communities and local businesses? And what about the disposal of the recovered oil and materials used? Where is all the white absorbent boom going? It's not going into our landfills. How much oil has absorbed into our soil? Is it safe to have a garden or let the children dig the dirt? I have too many concerns to really address all of them. I just know that at the moment, since being displaced, it has not been a fun adventure by any means. People don't understand if they don't live here, and big companies surely don't have any idea what we are going through. While decision makers and corporate employees get to go home and sleep in their own beds, we are in one room. And our baby, which has slept through the night from 3 weeks old, is now sleeping in a packing bay next to us. It's been a trying 2 months since March 29th, and our baby now wakes up through the night with what the doctor has called night terrors due to so many changes in the normal routine of life. This is just one of many, many challenges we are facing. We are moving on and basically starting over. Just not sure if it will be in Mayflower anymore. I just hope and pray that we as a family, community, and state of Arkansas can pull through this and really come together to make a difference and make Mayflower a better place to live.
Yeah, I just want to say I admire, it takes a lot, I admire and respect for the four of you immensely. The gentleman in the beard, what is your first name?
Damien.
Damien. We need more elected officials like you in this country. I can't say how much respect and how much I admire you for saying it's going to take people like you across the country, not just in Mayflower, to take action. And those people that were so happy with a $100,000 check, you couldn't be more on point. I hope somebody recorded this because with your permission, I want to play what you had to say over and over again for the national news.
I don't have any problem with that. I mean, truth be told, I'm not a shy individual. You know, I'll tell you how I see it. However, I will have facts or information when I do speak. If I don't know what it is that I'm talking about, or if I'm not reasonably assured of what I'm talking about, then I'm not going to say something. But you know, I've thought myself, you know, before this incident of getting politically involved somewhere in the community, school board, on city council, or something like that.
I want to volunteer. I would be campaign manager and I'll lead up everything. I volunteer. When people start accepting checks and say, let's go plant the grass, let's go buy a fleet of trucks, they become just as much of a problem. And this is not about thinking, I mean, it's about solving the problem collectively. And it's about what is the child sitting on your lap. That's what this is all about. And what question, we've reached out to, and there are elected officials, Congressman Markey cares, they've reached out, they want updates on this. And there are elected officials up, and I'm sure everyone cares in Arkansas. This is getting federal attention, and the facts are going to come out.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, the Athabasca Indians, we've made contact with them. All the symptoms you're seeing, we've got papers and everything behind it. We have fingerprinted the chemicals in the water column, and you're describing the symptoms that are consistent with the naphthalene and the derivatives and the weathering of this. We're gonna get into this later, but the question I have for you is red blood cell count. Has your blood been analyzed? Now, you don't need to comment with HIPAA laws, but make sure you're getting plenty of extensive blood work and getting your white cell and your red cell counts. That's what I'm hearing from experts from the medical field.
Staying in the realms of HIPAA law for myself, and kind of a private person, I'm pre-genetically disposed to have thicker than normal blood. I have high RH clotting factor, so I'm on blood thinners and whatnot. My blood's being constantly checked for its thickness and whatnot. However, you just brought up something very interesting. I mean, you can talk to my doctor about that, get the white blood cell count, and all of that looked at. You know, as I said, there's immediate concerns, obviously, that are going on here. And for me, there's really short term. I think longer term down the road. When I first came to the area and I started learning about fishing in Lake Conway and seeing how good it is, like fantastic. And then when he came along with that 16 months ago, so I was looking forward to all these things I can do with my boy. You know, taking down where Brown Creek empties into New York Cell River, taking Lake Conway, taking some of the other areas around there. And now I'm going to have to go out of my way to teach my young man here how to be an Arkansas. You know, I could probably word that better than that, but
I agree. That's one of the things that concerns me is the fact that, I mean, I grew up going to Conway Lake with my dad. You know, we'd stop by the bait shop and we'd get us, you know, some pumpkin pies and some drinks and some crickets and we'd go fish. I can't do that with my grandkids anymore. You know, I can't share that memory with them. And that upsets me. You know?
I come from concrete and steel. And then I come down to this environment down here. And my God, it just did a major rearrangement for me. Even what I've said before, the time I've spent outside, where you get to understand nature. Now I get to live in nature. I own a chunk of nature. And while he wasn't even in my eye when I bought the property, you know, this is what I want him to be able to experience. And even on my land, I'm seeing where I'm getting ready to be affected in one way or another. You know, and I think very long term, you know, what is different is nowhere near any other kind of oil. You have other solvents and everything. It's a heavier sludge. It sinks to the bottom. This is not a problem that's going to be covered up and maybe disappear for 20 or 30 years. Like Scott said, about Exxon Valdez, 30 years later. You know, it's still a problem. This is going to be a problem in this area for a very, very long time.
There was already a pre-existing cancer cluster in Mayflower. I know of, I mean, on the top of both my hands, I can name 10 people that had some form of cancer in Mayflower that passed away in the past 10 years. I don't know if it's pre-exposure from what's been in the ground or not. I myself have testicular cancer that I'm dealing with. So I have to go to the cancer doctor next Friday and I'm going to run by, having him check my blood cells and all that stuff that you suggested. And I'm going to get him to try and find somebody that can test for these things. Because I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's still going to be able to be found in us from being exposed to it the past 2 months, or if it just kind of just becomes part of you and it's just there. I don't have a clue.
How long does it stay in your system? How long does it take to dissipate? How long do we have to get tested before you can't, you know, they can't see?
Or prove that it's from it.
Right.
They can't prove it doesn't, and we can't prove it does.
They don't have enough testing throughout the years to have figured out exactly what all of this causes over long periods of time.
I guess one thing that too that concerns me is our young people in the school in Mayflower, that the air quality was either above EPA or at EPA or below their standards. What in the H does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their meters mean. They can sit there and show me 15 different numbers and I wouldn't know what it means.
No.
Say it was good, it was bad. The Easter Eve, they called our pastor. Our church is located right there, like across the street from us. Runs right behind our house, 300 yards from it. The pipeline is 15 feet underground right behind it. they called her and said, we need to come over there and test your air quality in your building to make sure we're gonna allow y'all to have church the next day. Why would you have to test it if there's nothing wrong with it?
Right.
They had their first meeting the day after the rupture at the school. My mom went to it. Everything she asked, they said, well, you have to call this number, you have to call this number. And oh, by the way, here's some Easter baskets for your kids and send them out to the
Oh, yeah.
They had no answers for nothing. They said, we're fine, we didn't need to evacuate, we didn't need to worry about it.
They
Well,
got
why be
what?
over there testing the air if there's nothing to worry about?
And Robin, you,
And I asked that question. I asked.
And there were cheap ones too.
Oh, yeah.
They were probably the cheapest ones you could find. There was one stuffed animal and a bag of candy.
This channel really has my respect for their courage and their ability.
I'd also like to point out, me and her since day one, we've been a part of the Facebook page. Mayflower Arkansas Oilsville page. It's been an adventure. We've had to deal with a lot of
ups and downs.
ups and downs with it, for sure.
Can anyone in here answer their question about how long do they have?
I would appreciate it, because I don't even have the answers.
Anybody try?
PAHs don't go away, they're absorbed into the private issues of the bond.
PAHs or what?
PAHs are the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that are the heavier fractions, if you will understand, of the
Are you asking how long I have to test their blood?
Yeah.
There's no way to know if you're gonna find it or not. I mean, the sooner that you can sample your blood, the better, but these chemical compounds tend to come in, store themselves in the fatty tissue around your organs, and then you don't necessarily find them in blood tests, and there's all kinds of things that come into play, like kidney function, and if your kidneys function
Which
better.
makes me ask a question. When I went to the doctor, they did do blood work, and now I have an extremely high potassium problem. Never had a potassium issue in my life, and now all of a sudden, I'm having a potassium issue, which is extremely high for what it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be like 5.2, and it's up to 6.3. So my concern is, they notice that, does that play a part in the symptoms? How do we know?
And I've heard Exxon likes to throw out, well, you've already had a pre-existing problem. You know, if you have already pre-existing health problems like I've had, then, it's probably just part of that. It ain't us.
That's definitely part of the difficulty with the human health assessment or the wetlands assessment. It is so complex, it is so complicated. Each individual is going to respond differently based on either their pre-existing conditions, their amount of exposure, their level of health. So it's not an easy answer on any level.
Do they have a fat tissue test? A fatty tissue test that they
Yes,
do?
but there's only select numbers of labs in the country that test for what's called a volatile solid profile, which is what you.
That's what I'm gonna ask for. I read up on that.
There's a couple of labs, one of them's Metametrics, it's in Atlanta. The protocols for that is that local physicians here in the state have to call Metametrics in Atlanta and set up accounts. They will ship supplies in to the doctors here, and the doctors here will draw the blood and ship it back to Metametrics, and they will run the protocol.
Well, I'm sure my wife will kill me for saying this, but she has not had a menstrual cycle in a month and a half since she started.
Speaking of pre-existing conditions, the only person that has a pre-existing condition is ExxonMobil Corporation, and they spill their shit in the wrong place.
Yeah, in my backyard, literally.
You believe that?
Go ahead, Ellen.
I would like to say that although I live in the area, and I feel bad for what we do, because I live in the property, so I pass through with my granddaughters on the freeway, and we have the spill, and my granddaughter in the front seat immediately smelled the spill. She immediately got it within a matter of seconds, and by the time we passed through and got it out of this dissipated, my granddaughter in the back seat did not. I don't know if it's a difference in whether I immediately turned off the air conditioner so that it's not in the cool room, or maybe the whichever was on, and maybe that got it, it could actually help.
Yeah. That first week I described the smell of like being in the house, covered in oil and set on fire and you're just sitting there breathing. That's how it was.
It was horrible, just from that.
For like a week and a half straight. Smell. So they were only concerned with where the oil was flowing and not where the fumes were going.
So you were talking about labs that need to be funded. So I'm wondering,
But it just depends on where you go and request it. Like I went to emergency room and I already talked to April, she had given me the heads up on what to tell the doctors. But I waited 2 weeks before I went to the emergency room. But sure, I didn't know for sure it was that or not. I just didn't know.
Yeah, because up to that point they hadn't told us.
I didn't have any health insurance.
Well, to that point they had told us everything was fine. It was this kind of oil and it wasn't that kind of oil, but it was actually that kind of oil and it wasn't this kind of oil.
And I kept getting these headaches and I coughing my head off. I coughed so bad that my throat was burned. Leg cramps, nausea. You name it, I had headaches.
so we need to.
So I asked the emergency room doctor, I told him explicitly what I would like for him to do and what had happened here. This is 2 weeks after we had the problem. He hadn't even heard about it. He didn't know anything about the oil spill, he said.
Just for the record, every citizen already, as a result of the Affordable Health Care Act, has 1 free diagnostic medical appointment a year. Go, if you think you need to.
But anyway,
But ask for extensive testing.
My question was,
your question was about having tested. I asked him, that doctor, would you please make this blood withdrawn and send something? I gave him, I told him where to send it, I told him what to do. But he would have said to me, maybe we can't do that, this should be
so we need to
Okay?
do what we should do.
That's why we have urged the health department to complete a comprehensive community health assessment. Because these issues need to be identified, they need to be documented, and they need to be addressed.
And while I was there, of course, they just rushed me in. I rushed, that's the fastest emergency room this I ever had. I'm serious. The head ER doctor was a woman who's going to have a warm but she came in real happy. And she said, well, ma'am, we're going to discharge you. I said, come on. And I said, okay. How did everybody come out? She said, well, your chest x-rays clear. With that baby, you're good. And breathing stuff. And all your blood pressure is good. And she said, we called that health department to check on this issue. And they assured us that there is no danger to anybody living in the Mayflower Residents on this facility. And what?
What was your question, sir? Did you have a question? Did you have a question earlier?
No, I was just going to make a comment about the people that I've talked to down there in Lake. So, it's not untypical as to what's happening, that men and women are experiencing different symptoms. And the age, like we said, about what not having a menstrual cycle. On the other flip side of that is younger women will have them all the time from the same chemical. It affects different people differently. It's not uncommon to see that. If you read that MSD sheet and you read between the lines and know what some of that stuff means, that's what's happening to you.